Hi, everybody, and welcome. So one of the things that yoga is known for is kind of this yoking of opposites. In fact, yoga actually means to yoke. So for tonight's practice, we're going to be bringing together some opposites. So we'll be doing some hip openers, and we'll also be doing some things that actually move the knee closer to the body, that bring the hip into flexion. So keep that in mind as we move through tonight's practice. And you might want to use a couple of blocks. You might want to use a strap, and you might want to use a blanket. So if you need to gather anything up, take just a minute, and then I'll see you on the mat. So we're actually going to start tonight in wide leg child's pose. And if you want to use a blanket to pad your knees for this, you can do that. So we'll bring our big toes together and open our knees out wide, and then sink the hips back and come into our child's pose. And remember, if your forehead doesn't meet the floor, you can always use a block underneath your forehead to support yourself, or even if your forehead does meet the floor, sometimes just using a block to bring a little different something into your practice can be nice. So just begin to breathe deeply into your belly here. And if there's anything that you've carried onto your mat with you today, anything that's not serving you, lists of things to do, worries, concerns, or plans, just imagine yourself setting those things to the side. And allow yourself to settle in. And begin to make your exhales just a little longer than your inhale. You don't have to focus on that too much, just sort of get a feel for it as you settle in here today. Allowing gravity to gently open the hips here. We'll begin to move up from this pose. We're going to use our breath to help carry us up out of our child's pose. You might want to move your block out of the way if you use that. Take a nice inhale here and then exhale, allowing the hips to come back to child's pose. Inhale to rise up. Exhale, shift the hips back. Continuing to move like this, inhaling to rise. Exhaling to shift the hips back. And twice more through this motion with your own breath. And now we'll allow ourselves to rise up, bringing our wrists underneath our shoulders, like in tabletop, but keeping the knees wide here. And from this wide leg shape, we'll begin our cat-cow motion. So you might just feel into the body here how this is a little different, how this feels a little different from the cat-cow that we do with the knees stuck under the hips. We'll bring this back to a neutral spine. And then we're going to exhale. And as we're exhaling, shoot those hips back towards the right heel. And then begin to move towards center, moving the hips over the left heel. And then inhaling to come back up. Exhaling, going hips back to the right heel, coming through center. Inhaling back up. And twice more through this motion, really leaning into the side body here. Feeling that nice stretch through the side body. And then as we reach the top of our inhale, this time as we're exhaling, we'll shift those hips back towards the left heel. And come through this motion twice more with your own breath. And then we'll inhale back up to our neutral spine. We'll go ahead and walk those knees in under the hip points. We'll just do a little stretch for the shoulder here. So we're going to come into a thread the needle, but we're going to do this as a gate pose variation. So keeping the left knee planted into the mat, we're going to extend the right leg out. And the right toes are pointing straight forward so that if we had a wall out next to us, the outside of the foot would be pressing into the wall. And then pressing deeply into this right hand, we'll inhale the left arm out to the side, and then exhale, bringing that left palm underneath the right. And if you like, you can come to your fingertips here on the right hand, just to deepen this stretch. And if there's anything about this variation of thread the needle that's just not working in your body or not available in your body, feel free to take the more traditional gate thread the needle pose. A couple of deep breaths here. And then plant that right hand, pressing into the mat, bringing the left hand back to the mat, and then slowly and carefully bringing that right knee, can't get my right and left together tonight. Bring the right knee back in under the hip. And now we'll take the left leg and extend it out to the side. And I don't have very much room to do that here where I'm practicing today. So you can just extend that left leg out to the side, once again, keeping those toes facing forward, that side of the foot like it's pressing up against that invisible wall. And then we'll inhale the right arm out to the side and exhale, shooting that right arm underneath the left, maybe coming to the fingertips on the left hand. Staying here for a couple of breaths. And then pressing into the left palm, we'll bring the right palm back to the mat and then draw that left knee in back under the left hip. And if you are using a blanket on your mat today, you might take some time to move that out of the way. And then from our tabletop, we'll walk our hands, a couple of handprints out in front, turning the toes under and the back, moving the hips up, coming into downward facing dog. Bending deeply into the knees here as we're just starting out today. Feeling that nice straight extension of the spine and maybe beginning to pedal out through the feet. Pressing up and out of the mat, moving the weight back towards the heels. Just moving gently here, waking up the backs of the legs. And then inhaling up to the toes. We'll exhale as we allow the heels to sink back towards the mat. And then shifting the gaze forward, we'll walk or hop if you like, up to the top of the mat, coming into a forward fold, keeping that little micro bend in the knees. And then just taking a moment here to do anything that your body would like for you to do as we wake up the hamstrings, maybe walking the fingertips from side to side, coming into a ragdoll, or maybe just keeping those fingertips on the floor. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale the arms up overhead, really reaching up through the fingertips, nice big long stretch. And then exhale, hands come to heart center. We have quite a few vinyasas in our sequence today. So remember that vinyasa is always just an invitation. You never have to take it. You can always just go straight back to downward facing dog. So we'll check in with our foundation for just a moment here, maybe picking up all the toes, putting down the pinky toe, the big toe, allowing the toes to come down to the mat, getting that little bend in the knees, hugging all the muscles into the bones as we rise up through the body, shoulders coming onto the back, pressing back through the back of the skull, bringing the chin in just slightly. And then staying connected to our foundations and to ourselves in this way. We'll inhale the arms up overhead and exhale as we come into forward fold. Inhaling up halfway to come to a nice straight flat back. And then exhale, coming into forward fold. You can step back to plank here. And if you like, you can come through a vinyasa, bringing those elbows into the sides, lowering slowly. Remembering you can go straight to down dog if you like. Inhale up, baby cobra. Exhale, release. Inhaling up through plank or half plank. And then exhaling, we'll find our way into downward facing dog. So really pressing into both hands. Now we'll bring the big toes together. And we're going to inhale that left foot up, just like we're sliding that foot up a wall. And then exhaling, we'll bring the left foot in between the hands. If you have some blocks that you'd like to use today, you can always bring those blocks to the outside of the foot here, up to you. We're going to drop that right knee down to the mat. And then really engaging through the belly, pressing the top of the foot into the floor and the back and drawing the thighs towards each other. We'll inhale up, coming into Anjaneyasana, low lunge. Nice big deep breath here. Exhale, bringing those hands back around the left foot. And here, if you have some blocks, you can bring those with you as we shift the left hip back. Bringing the left toes up towards the face, coming into half split. Couple of breaths here. And then inhaling, we'll roll back forward on that left foot, shifting the blocks out of the way perhaps, or keeping them underneath. The hands will come up on the back toes, and then stepping the back toes forward, coming into forward fold. From our forward fold here, we'll sweep the arms up next to the ears or maybe straight out front as we come into chair pose. Big deep breath. Inhale here, exhaling, bringing the hands through heart center and coming back down, forward fold. Planting both hands, we'll step back to plank or half plank and come through a vinyasa or take yourself home to downward facing dog. Inhaling up, baby cobra. Exhale, release. Inhaling up through plank. And exhale, downward dog. Big toes come together here. Now inhaling that right leg up that invisible wall. Exhaling, right knee comes through center. Maybe using your blocks here if you like. Dropping that left knee to the mat, really planting that left top of the foot into the mat. Inhaling up, arms overhead, low lunge. Nice big inhale here, reaching up through the fingertips. Exhale, hands come back down to frame the leg. Rolling back up on the left toes. Inhaling the back foot to the front. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling, arms sweep up overhead, hips shift back, coming back to chair pose. Holding it here. Inhale. And exhale, hands come to heart center. I think we missed a half split, so let's go back and take it. Inhaling the arms up overhead. We'll exhale, hands come to heart center. Coming down to forward fold, stepping back, downward facing dog. And let's inhale that right leg forward one more time. Coming into our lunge. Dropping that back knee, left top of the foot, pressing into the floor. Shifting the hips back. Coming back into our half split. A couple of breaths here. Never take it too seriously. It's only yoga. Rolling back forward on that front foot. We'll shift those blocks back out of the way. Coming back up on the left toes. And coming back to our forward fold. And inhaling up to stand. Hands come to heart center. Take a moment here to breathe and reflect. Oh, good. And then inhaling the arms up overhead. We'll exhale, sweeping back down, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, surrender and bow. And then stepping back into plank. You can come through a vinyasa if you like here. And if your back's ready for it, you might shift up into up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then again, bringing the big toes together. We'll inhale up through the left leg. Exhaling, bringing that left knee through center. And then we're going to take the back foot and bring forward a couple of footprints, turning the toes out towards the top corner of the mat at a 45-degree angle. And then sweeping those arms up overhead, coming into warrior one. So take a moment here just to get comfortable in your warrior one. Maybe squaring your hips towards the top of the mat, pressing the feet away from each other, pulling back through that left hip, pressing forward through the right, reaching up tall with the fingers, and then exhaling, bringing the hands to heart center. And we can feel the opposites even in this warrior one pose. As we press the feet away from each other, when we reach up through the fingertips, as we ground down through the feet. So really feel into that groundedness of the foundation here. And we're going to move into a warrior three variation. So keeping the hands at heart center, we'll inhale here to grow tall through the spine. And then exhale, hinging at the hips. until our bodies are parallel to the floor, as close to parallel as we can get them. And then really pressing into that left foot. You can bring the toe to the floor behind you. And maybe you stay here, or perhaps you allow that foot to begin to rise from the floor. Bringing it up any amount. Keeping that right hip in alignment with the left. Moving that right hip, maybe the right little toe, turning that down towards the floor. And then when you're ready, allowing that back foot to come back down to the mat. We're going to bring the left elbow to the top of the left leg as we sweep that top arm up and over the ear, coming into an extended side angle. Couple of breaths here. Feeling that line from the fingertips all the way through the heel. Pressing away with the fingertips and the heel in these opposite directions. Nice big inhale here. And then as we're exhaling, we'll allow that arm to begin to come down. And we're going to walk the fingers around towards the other side of the mat, but we're keeping this left foot pointing forward. I'm going to change the direction of the right foot. So now the right toes are reaching out towards the right lower corner of the mat. And then allow ourselves to sink down into a half split. Sorry, not a half split, a half squat as we bring the left toes up from the mat. So this is Skandasana. And again, if this variation doesn't work for you, just go ahead and come into a wide leg forward fold here. Take a couple of breaths, and then we'll begin to walk the fingers back around to frame the left foot, turning those right toes back towards the top of the mat, planting both hands, and then coming through your vinyasa, coming straight to downward facing dog. Good. And now bringing those big toes together again. We'll inhale that right heel up. Exhale, right leg comes through the hands. Bringing the left foot forward, a couple of footprints. Inhaling the arms up overhead, warrior one. Pinkies facing each other. Eyes moving in towards that invisible center line. And then exhaling here, bringing the hands to heart center. Beginning to tilt over. Pressing into the right foot. Bringing that left leg up to the toes. We're bringing it up any amount. Left toes rotating down towards the mat. Left hip moving down. And when you're ready, bringing that back foot back down to the mat. Bringing the right elbow to the top of the right knee. And windmilling that left arm up and over the ear. Extended side angle. Deepening into that front knee. Smoothing out the breath, reconnecting with the breath, and then allowing that left arm to windmill down, walking the fingertips around to the left, changing the direction of the left foot, and choosing if you like to come into a half squat here or if you prefer to be in your wide leg forward fold. And then from wherever you are, allowing your fingertips to walk back around to the top of the mat, coming to frame the left foot, and this time stepping the left foot up to meet the right Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, releasing into the fold. Inhale up to stand. Hands come to heart center. Take a moment here to take stock, readjust, receive the benefits of your practice. And then we'll allow the fingertips to come down towards the floor as we inhale, the arms up overhead. Exhale, coming down to forward fold. Stepping back to plank, coming through your vinyasa or coming straight to downward dog. And now from our down dog, inhaling the left leg up, exhaling, left foot comes in between the hands. We'll drop the right knee to the mat, bringing the top of the right foot to the mat, and we'll bring the hands to the inside of the left leg as we walk this left leg out to the edge of the mat. Your toes might spill off the mat a little bit here, so we're coming into this lizard pose. And we'll take just a moment here in our high lizard, shifting the hips down, opening the gaze forward if you can. And you're welcome to stay here in this high lizard, or you can bring a block in front of you if you need it, or just lower down to your elbows, remembering that if you need to make a little bit more space for yourself, you can open your knees slightly out to the side. Nice, slow, deep breaths. And then we'll inhale back up to our hands, moving that block out of the way if you chose to use it. Heel toe, that left leg back in between the hands, rolling up on the toes in the back, shifting the left foot back, coming into downward facing dog. And you can stay here in downward facing dog or take a wide leg child's pose as we move into our yogi squat, if that is not a pose that's available in your body. So choose where you're going to move from here. If you'd like to come into squat, we're going to walk the feet forward to about the halfway point of the mat. Bring the feet out nice and wide. And then begin to walk the hands back towards the feet until we're in sort of a wide, semi-wide leg forward fold. And then from here, taking a nice big deep breath and exhaling as we sink the hips down, bringing the elbows to the insides of the knees. Remembering that if you have blocks available, you can always use a block to support yourself under your sacrum here. No need to struggle. The point of the pose is just to open the hips. So give yourself the support you need here. Couple of breaths. Nice. And now we'll allow the hands to come back down to the mat, shifting that block out of the way if you chose to use that. And extending the hips back up towards the ceiling into this semi-wide leg fold. Walking the hands back out, and then walking the feet back. Coming back to down dog. And you can stay here in your down dog, or if you like, you can come to plank, coming through your vinyasa. And now we'll repeat this sequence on the other side. So joining back in your down dog, bringing your big toes together, inhaling right leg up, Exhale, right leg comes through center. Letting that left knee sink down towards the mat. Left top of the foot comes to the mat, and we'll walk that right foot out to the wide edge, coming into our high lizard, sinking the left hip forward, maybe taking the gaze forward, smoothing out the breath. And then on your next exhale, coming down to your forearms if you like, either on your mat or on a block, creating some little extra space for yourself by opening that knee out to the side if that feels right for your anatomy. And either closing your eyes or finding a focal point, focusing on the breath. And then when you're ready, inhaling back up, shifting the block out of the way if you need to. Heel toe, that right foot back in between the hands, rolling up on the left toes, and shifting that right leg back, downward dog. And then again, choosing if you'd like to come from here into a wide leg child's pose, or if you'd like to come back to squat, walking the feet to the center of the mat, taking them out wide, following with the fingers. Nice big inhale here, and then exhale, sinking the hips down, coming into your squat. And if your heels are up from the floor here, don't worry about that. You may even like to bring a blanket underneath your heels when you're practicing. Pressing the palms into each other. Knees into the elbows and the elbows into the knees. And then we'll allow the hands to release. We're going to take one hand to the mat in front of us and bring the other hand around behind as we gently release ourselves down to the mat. And then bring the soles of the feet together, coming for just a moment into Baddha Konasana. And you can interlace your fingers underneath your big toes, lace them underneath your feet, or hold on to your ankles. Nice straight spine. And then we'll allow that to release. We'll bring the hands underneath the knees to help the knees to close and come down to rest on the back. Bringing the knees into the chest. And maybe taking a moment to roll out through the lower back. And we'll allow the soles of both feet to come down to the floor. And here, if you have a strap or a towel handy, you can grab that. If not, that's okay. You can just hold on to the leg. We'll keep the left sole of the foot planted into the floor as we bring the strap behind, or rather around, the ball of the right foot. And taking the strap in both hands or holding onto the sides of the calf, just allow the shoulders to be heavy and relaxed on the mat. Taking that stretch into the hamstring. Tucking the chin slightly to allow the back of the neck to be nice and long. And as the hamstrings release here, maybe think of something that you would like to release as well. And then bringing both straps into the right hand, or if you're not using a strap, you might bend the right knee and take the hand to the top of the right knee. We'll inhale here, and as we're exhaling, open the leg out to the side, flexing through the foot, whether the knee is bent or straight here, just opening through the hip. And then we'll inhale the right leg back overhead. We'll take both straps in the left hand. Extend the left leg long along the floor. We'll reach out to the side for the right hand with the right hand. And again, if you don't have a strap here, you can keep this left knee bent and hold onto the knee instead. And we'll inhale here, and as we're exhaling, we're just going to allow this right leg to come over to the left just slightly, keeping the right hip on the floor. So it's a big stretch through the outside of the leg and the hamstring. So thinking about opposites here. We opened the hip into external rotation, and now we're bringing the hip into some internal rotation. And then inhaling that foot back up overhead, we'll draw the left sole of the foot back to the floor, and then bring the outside of the right foot to the top of the left leg. Taking a moment here for a nice big inhale, and then as we're exhaling, lifting that left foot from the floor, maybe interlacing the fingers behind the left quadricep, and extending that left leg anywhere that you like. It can be extended or fully bent. We're moving the knee away from the body here, so continuing to move into that external rotation of the hip here. Feeling that nice deep stretch down the outside of the hip. And then allowing that left sole of the foot to find the floor. We'll follow that with the right. And then taking our strap again, if you have that handy, around the left ball of the foot. We'll walk the hands up that strap, relaxing the shoulders. Many times in our bodies, when one muscle is in extension, the other muscle is in flexion or contraction here. So here we can feel, especially in this pose, how our hamstrings are lengthening as our quadricep or thigh muscle is relaxed, contracting. And so maybe thinking now with this leg of something you'd like to invite in to your life. And now taking both straps in the left hand, we'll allow the leg to open out to the left. I'm going to bend my knee and take that variation out to the left. And whichever variation you choose, keeping that left foot flexed. Bringing a little awareness back to the right knee, making sure it's pointing straight forward. And then inhaling that left leg back overhead. We'll extend the right leg long along the floor. And then allow that left leg to come over just a little towards the right, keeping the left hip on the floor, flexing both feet, keeping the feet bright and engaged. And then releasing this little stretch, we'll bring the right sole of the foot back to the mat, taking the left ankle over the right knee. Deep breath. And exhale, stretching through the outside of the left thigh. Tucking the chin in towards the chest, just slightly. Remember that if your shoulders or neck don't reach the floor in this shape, you can always bring a blanket or even a block underneath the shoulders and the neck, just to bring in a little height so they can be relaxed. And now we'll allow the right sole of the foot to come back down to the floor, and we'll bring both of the knees into the chest here, rolling out slightly through the lower back. And now bringing the soles of both feet down to the mat. We'll bring the feet out to the wide edges of the mat. Inhaling as we open the arms wide, and then allowing the knees to fall over in any direction you choose, taking the gaze over the opposite shoulder. And if it feels good for your body here, you can take one foot over the top of that opposite knee, deepening into this stretch. And then allow that little bind to release if you chose to take it. Inhaling the knees back up. We'll exhale as we drop the knees to the other side. Taking the gaze over that opposite shoulder. Or maybe taking that little bind if you like it. And then allow that to release. Inhaling knees back up. We'll bring the knees into the chest. So bring the knees in close here, and then one more hip opener, allowing the knees to part as we reach through and grab the big toes or the outsides of the feet and come into happy baby. And then find some stillness if you found some movement here. We'll bring the soles of the feet back into touch. And then allow ourselves to relax all the way out. Finding your Shavasana. And taking a nice deep breath. Exhaling that out with a sigh. Imagining that any tension remaining in your body can be exhaled out, so that all that's left is heaviness, and relaxation as you sink into the floor. As we end with our Shavasana today, We'll do a little centering practice with the breath. And so inhaling fully, we'll begin to count. Inhaling for a count of 4, pausing at the top, and exhaling for a count of 4. So first, emptying our lungs completely, and then inhaling 2, 3, 4, pause, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4. Suspend the breath at the bottom, 2, 3, 4, and then inhale, 2, 3, 4. Retain the breath at the top, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4. Retain the breath, 2, 3, 4, and then inhaling to 4, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. And now exhaling, but this time exhaling just a little slower for a count of 6, 4, 5, 6. Pause at the bottom. Inhale to 4. Pause. And exhale for 6. Pause at the bottom. Inhale for 4. Pause at the top. And then see if this time you can exhale to a count of 8. Pause at the bottom. And one last time like this, inhaling to a count of 4. Pausing at the top. And exhaling to a count of 8. And now just allow your breath to return to normal. Feel any changes that have come into your body or your mind. These breathing exercises. Deepen your breath. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretch your arms out overhead if you like. And then roll to one side. And when you're ready, Press yourself back up to a seated position. You can bring your hands to heart center if you like, and your eyes closed or your gaze lowered. The poem I brought to close with tonight is by Gunilla Norris. It's called Paradox of Noise. It is a paradox that we encounter so much internal noise when we first try to sit in silence. It is a paradox that experiencing pain releases pain. It is a paradox that keeping still can lead us so fully into life and being. Our minds do not like paradoxes. We want things to be clear so we can maintain our illusions of safety. We each possess a deeper level of being, however, which loves paradox. It knows that summer is already growing like a seed in the depth of winter. It knows that the moment we are born, we begin to die. It knows that all of life shimmers in shades of becoming, that shadow and light are always together, the visible mingled with the invisible. When we sit in stillness, we are profoundly active. Keeping silent, we hear the roar of existence through our willingness to be the one we are. We become one with everything. May this little practice with opposites and paradoxes today have brought you some peace and stillness. Thank you so much for joining me for your practice, and may your yoga follow you off the mat.